Come and dream with me.
Hello and welcome to What Do You Want to Watch, the Explosion Network's premier media podcast. Every week we get together to talk about movies, TV, and online content and help you answer the question, is Nicolas Cage right? Young people don't know what black and white films are. Possibly. I'm your host, Ash Lobby. Join me today, Dylan Blight.
Yes, I would agree that I would assume if you asked younger people, they would assume black and white films are from the 1930s
Probably.
and don't understand that it's still sometimes used as a
Is it an aesthetic? Yes.
aesthetic choice. Yeah.
Obviously, the rationale behind this is why there is both a color and a black and white version of Spider-Man Noir. So I think that rules it. That's determined it, right? The black and white version is the
Canon
intended version.
The intended version, yeah. Artistic vision.
Yeah, so there isn't that many black and white, like, mainstream stuff, I guess, anymore.
I remember
Everything is like artsy or like.
I was about to say, literally, what was the artist that won the Academy Award, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A non-English, no, a silent film.
Yeah.
So not exactly screaming.
No.
Kids,
Mainstream.
watch this. On today's episode, we'll be talking about what's in our watch history, going with a little film news, giving thumbs for trailers, and giving this week's top 3. Kicking things off over on All New Marvel Cast, we just did a spoiler cast for Punisher, One Last Kill, the new Marvel special presentation that dropped on Disney Plus. It features John Bernthal as Frank Castle, reprising his role from his TV series and the multiple Daredevil TV series, in which, post killing the final people responsible for his family, he considers what to do with the rest of his life before someone seeks revenge on the Punisher and sends a vast array of local criminals to try and kill him. So we did a spoiler discussion over on All New Marvel Cast, but Dylan, do you want to give your overall thoughts of One Last Kill?
Yeah, I thought it was fine. It plays out. I think I said it plays out sort of like a short film to me, and that it's just a very self-contained, fast-paced little story that mostly has a little bit of setup at the start to give you an aspect of the psychological state that Frank Castle's in this time of his life, post dealing with all the shit he set out to do and wondering where to go with his life next before action kicks off, because there's the revenge of this woman. I don't know if any of this is a spoiler, but who cares? For the family, the mafia families that he killed and stuff, sets a bunch of people after him, and then the rest of it's just a big long shootout and action scene. And the action is mostly good, I think, frenetic and a good mix of Barrow doing his own stunts and stuff, including I saw like he did the caught himself on fire stuff. I saw in the behind the scenes and yeah. So apparently he wanted to do a lot of the stuff himself. There are some tidbits that I stood out. Like I remember talking about you when we recorded that there's this one part where he fell that looked terrible to me, the CGI. And then the next day I saw like an IGN article about it and I sent it to you like, this is the shit I was talking about. So stuff like that like sort of stood out, especially I think it's going to stand out more in the world where Disney, like, they got rid of so many VFX artists and let them all go. And then we're now dealing with stuff like this. It's like, well, I don't know, maybe you shouldn't have done that. But
apparently the crazy thing is that is all in camera, except for they've replaced John Barronthal's face.
And they did a terrible job at the face, yeah.
I don't know if that's true. There's just it just doesn't look right. Maybe they need to like show the footage at like proper speed. That would be the only thing that could probably save it. But like people have been pulling, I don't know, like footage from like PS3 video games that look almost identical. So it just could just be one of these weird coincidences and one of those weird camera angle tricks that makes it look bad. But I don't know. I feel like that was some sort of special effects and they're trying to cover their ass for it looking off.
Yeah. AI to edit or something. I don't know. But so yeah, I think it was fine. It's a perfectly enjoyable watch. Not something I think I'd ever be returning to, though. Like, I don't think it's a fulfilling narrative arc or anything like that, but it does make for a fun, quick afternoon watch.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good time. Like, I think it shows why John Barenthal's version of the Punisher has kind of lasted and lingered this long in comparison to every other take, which we all watched during our Punisher rewatch over on All New Marvel Cast. His has been embraced and enjoyed a lot more. I think all the action stuff is really good. Obviously, it's not the raid, but it's not far behind. A lot of the action is really good. A lot of the gunplay is really fun. I think I said the blood in this is maybe a little bit too aerosol for my liking. Should be a little more liquidy, you know. But yeah, I thought it's really well put together, and like if we get more of these smaller stories from Marvel, I think that would be pretty good going forward. So yeah, check out Punisher: One Last Kill. The last time I'll say that title over on all new Marvel cast. All right, I ventured to the cinema and watched Guy Ritchie's latest film, Into the Grey, which stars Jake Gyllenhaal, Henry Cavill, and Isaac Gonzalez. So Isaac Gonzalez plays a specialist lawyer who specializes in reclaiming debt for major corporation, major lenders from people like shady people who they shouldn't have really lent money to. So there's this guy called Manny Salazar who lives in Spain but has been loaned $1 billion by a company with the lead person responsible for loaning the money being played by Rosamund Pike. So Isaac Gonzalez comes in after the first person they've tried to get the money is killed. So she comes in and it sets about trying to recover, getting Salazar to pay back the money that he owes. To do that, she has like a team of lawyers who are trying to legally reclaim all the money through the court system and international law and that kind of stuff. Then she also has a second team who are going to put pressure on him to do it in the grey, some would say, slightly illegally. And that's where Henry Cavill and Jake Gyllenhaal come in. They play like the leaders of the team that she's assembled to pressure him into repaying by, stopping his oil rig from working, or what else they do? They start spying on like his accountant and that kind of stuff, like planting bugs and all these kinds of things, so they can listen into all these conversations and know what shell companies he's putting all this money into and that kind of stuff, or planting documents to reveal that the hotel that he's building in Saudi Arabia is actually way bigger than is on the plans, and just get it shut down and that kind of stuff before, eventually going to the island that he's living on and kind of planning for Isaac Gonzalez to meet with Salazar, and then having a bunch of contingencies to leave the island in case things go sour. I had a good time. I think it's a fun idea concept for a film. I think it could have easily been like the pilot episodes of a TV show, like a procedural or whatever, if they wanted to. I probably special effects wise, all the action and stuff, and it's pretty cool. They ride around on all sorts of vehicles. They're very meticulous in their planning, because they're theorizing is the more you plan, the more perfect the getaway is going to go, that kind of stuff. So they set up all these plans, and of course, naturally, all of them actually get fulfilled because it's a requirement of the film. It's Schrodinger's. No, not Schrodinger. What's the one with the gun? If you see a gun in the first part of the movie, someone's going to shoot that gun.
Isn't Schrodinger's?
No, Schrodinger is the cat.
Oh, it's Jane. Jane's got a
Chekhov's gun. There we go.
That's it.
Those Chekhov's plans.
Yeah.
Because they all get fulfilled. Yeah, it's pretty good. I think it is it's maybe Guy Ritchie in fourth gear. It's definitely not his best work. It's definitely reliant very heavily on the charisma of a lot of the actors and that kind of stuff. And Henry Cavill and Jake Gyllenhaal, and they're kind of back and forth. They've been, old-time buddies who have been doing this kind of thing for Isaac Gonzalez's character for a decade or something. So you got this fun banter between all these characters. It feels lived in, but also there's this weird nonchalantness to them all. It doesn't feel like anything that ever happens phases any of them. They're just maybe too relaxed, unsettlingly relaxed about everything. Yeah, too cool, especially when things go kind of sideways. There's not ever a real breaking of the coolness.
That's his style. All his characters always have to be really cool, Usually his characters don't actually have
freak out.
proper, emotional arcs, really. They're just
no, there's
things will
definitely
happen
no
and then,
emotional arcs in this film. But yeah, it was a fun hour 40 something time at the cinema. I felt like I got my money's worth, so I would recommend checking. I think it's worth checking out, but don't go in expecting like this great action film, I guess, action thriller. So yeah, In the Grey in cinemas now. All right, let's move into the mandatory Netflix segment of the show. Dylan, you checked out the recent Australian film, I guess you would call it, Apex, starring Charlize Theron and Taron Egerton.
Yeah, it is an Australian film, I guess.
It's set in Australia at the very least.
Yeah, it's Australian production or co-production at least.
There you go.
Yeah, so Apex stars Charlize Theron, who at the start of the film we see her character's climbing up a mountain of some sort, wherever it is, I can't remember, in Australia somewhere. I think it was at the start in Australia somewhere. It might not have been. Anyway, her partner at the time, Eric Bana, he dies in the first 10 minutes of the movie, falls off dead. So then she comes back. The rest of the movie is like her coming back to Australia, I guess, to spread his ashes and like do one last thing, because Eric Bana is Australian, crazy, and he was playing in Australian. And then when she's on her journey, she bumps into a bunch of crazy outbacky, real sort of type Aussie dudes. And then there's a guy who sort of at first is like, "Nah, get out of here, yo, leave that lady alone," and seems like a good guy, and that's Taron Egerton's character, who then she asks for information on how to get to this particular place in this wildlife park that she's heading to. He says to go this way. It's the best way to get there. Really, sort of it's a hard track to get through, but trust me, it's the best route or whatever. So she heads out there, and then lo and behold, bumps into him, and he basically steals all her gear, and then gives her like a 2.5 minute, 3 minute, I don't know, whatever. He says he starts playing a song and does a crazy dance, which is probably one of the best parts of the movie, to be honest. And then he says, when the song finishes, I'm going to hunt you down. And he's holding like a big, whatever you call it, like automatic pump action arrow shooter gun thing. I don't know, whatever. Hunting arrow rifle. And then, off she sets to run away. And and the majority of the movie is sort of her on the run from him. And Taron Egerton's playing crazy dude who calls petrol fuel, which never does not annoy me. And then, yeah, it's fine. it's like such a Netflix just action movie that you'd expect these days is sort of the problem. It's none of the characters are particularly engaging or interesting. Taron Egerton's at least bringing some crazy, edgy, that's exciting to watch to this character, but there's no like depth to any of these people. Charlize Theron's just sort of, it sounds mean to say phoning it in, because it's still fine. Like Charlize phoning in a performance is still like a good performance, but like there's no depth to any of these characters, and I don't think any of the scenes really stood out as particularly enthralling or exciting. I think it's shot well. It's got some nice Australian landscapes and local things to show off, I guess, is sort of a high point, but I don't think the film ever does, even in its final big sequence, I don't think it ever does a really good job at shooting and presenting the things that the characters go through and do in a way that makes them as grueling as they should be presented, I think. So, and then, it's supposed to have this big emotional ending to a degree, and I really didn't care by that point. So, yeah, just add it. It was sort of what I'd expect for a Netflix original film these days, to be honest. My bar is so low for Netflix original films. It's just, especially, yeah, when they're cycled through like this, especially when I'm like, oh, this is to hit some of that Australian-made content mandate a bit. Yeah, let's see how it ends. But nonetheless.
All right. Well, I checked out the new Netflix documentary, The Crash. Have you heard about this one?
No.
So it follows a car crash that took place in 2002 in Ohio, somewhere, involving a bunch of teenagers. There's the driver, Mackenzie Shriller, her boyfriend Dom, and their friend Davion, who's in the backseat of the car. They're driving home one morning, and they crash into a building, killing the two guys and leaving Mackenzie in a critical condition. That's the setup of the documentary. You get a bunch of like talking heads. Her parents talking about like their reaction to everything. His parent, the boy's parents, or like relatives talking about them and that kind of stuff. You get her friends and that kind of stuff. Then you get to there's also you actually see the police body cam footage of the parents and that being told about what was happening, and that's pretty confronting. Like, or like even there's footage of them like getting to the scene for the first time. The car is like completely demolished, pretty badly. The engine's completely like pulled into the car and that kind of stuff. So, and then like discovering the bodies and that kind of stuff. And you can hear the police officer who's on the scene for the first time and like checking through the windows. And then by the time he gets to the third person, he's like struggling to get his words out because he wants to throw up. It sounds like it's pretty confronting. But then it was revealed later on that the car was driving 100 miles per hour through a T section and never hit the brakes in the 5 seconds before hitting the wall. And the film kind of goes into why that could possibly have happened. Can you guess why? Yeah, so it follows the case and explained how the prosecution came about charging the driver with potential murder. Yeah, it is a very interesting film just because of the subject matter, because it is such a wild thing for a person to do. Of course, they go into like the backstory of the relationships and all that kind of stuff. And then you get into the character of Mackenzie and that kind of stuff. And she is like a, I don't know, wannabe Instagram influencer who also is smoking pot all the time, who has been babied by her parents her whole life to act as if she's never done anything wrong and that kind of stuff. To put it simply, she's an infuriating person to have to witness. And then you get interviews with her parents and they're trying to defend her as much as possible, of course, because they're her parents, whatever, but they're infuriating. Anyone who's defending her in any way during this film is thoroughly infuriating. But then you got the flip side of the parents and friends from the other side, like being graceful and not like vindictive against her in their discussions on the subject matter and that kind of stuff. And it's like, fuck, you've got so much more grace and poise than I think I would in a situation like that, especially when Netflix is there. You could just say whatever you want, really. Yeah, like kind of weirdly a hard watch because it just involves so many kind of awful people, self-important, like narcissistic people, and these two people have died as a result of their actions and that kind of stuff. But yeah, just it follows the court case all the way through. Slight spoilers. They get interview with her, like in prison, like yeah, where she gives her side, but you know, as is pointed out in the very last segment of her interview, in the top corner, it's like because his interview was conducted with her lawyer present. It even cut into a moment where she's talking to her lawyer to make sure that she's hit all her talking points and that kind of stuff.
So I assume she was just on the phone, right?
No, in person.
No, I mean like when she ran the light or whatever.
Well, we don't know. She does not remember. I'm using a lot of quotation marks. She conveniently doesn't remember what happened right up to her leaving the house that they left before going home. So, yeah. Let me put it out there. I think she did it. She's guilty. She could have got more time. Her parents, terrible. The Crash, check it out on Netflix.
Is that a movie or a series?
It's a movie. It's about an hour and a half-ish. So, which I'm grateful. You know? Didn't need to be longer than that. Didn't need a 3-episode miniseries.
I wonder when they decide. It's funny because you get so many Netflix ones that are like that 90-minute thing, and then you have the ones that are 3 40-minute episodes. You know what I mean? Like it's just. But then sometimes the 3 40-minute ones.
It depends on how the story breaks, I guess. Or like, is there other natural endpoints in which you could be like, let's stop here, and then, you know, if someone wants to leave it on cliffhanger, there's the option. Yeah. All right, you watched the Netflix documentary. You watched Should I Marry a Murderer? I'm guessing the answer is no.
I mean, in general, I'd say the answer is no, yeah. This one was quite interesting. However, I don't think the documentary did a good job at covering its main subject is, I guess, my criticism out the gate. This was a 3-episode, like I just said, a 3-episode one. So, but it covers this woman who, like, I don't know, is it Glasgow or some shit? I don't know. Anyway, somewhere around there. So she meets this guy. It's like everything's great. She's the best ever. Everything's going great. And then one night he tells her that a dark secret. He's like, I've got something I need to like tell you. Just get off my chest. And it's like a couple years ago, me and my brother were driving home one night, and we hit someone and then killed him, but we didn't see him in the dark. And we just left the body there or something like that. So
it's, I know what you did last summer.
Pretty much. Yeah. This is kind of a real life I know he did last summer. So then she sort of sits on that and doesn't want to know what to do with that because she's so in love with this guy and thinks he's fantastic until this information was given that he hid a murder. But as the story continues, it's like sort of the story actually gets worse, where it's then, slight spoilers, where it then becomes, we hit him. He was still somewhat alive, but instead of taking him to a hospital or something because we were scared we'd get in trouble, we took him out to a hole and buried him. Which is even worse if you thought it was worse before. So then she does this, like she eventually like goes to sort of talk to the police, but the police can't do a proper case because they don't have enough evidence other than her saying that he said this sort of thing, even though they are looking for a guy that's been missing for 3 years who was last seen around that area, who the police could never find and solve the case of where this guy went. But my main problem with the documentary is, as the story continues and it become a big standout point of this story is not covered in great detail, or the filmmakers chose not to really put a big spotlight on this, which does stand out, which is that she, the main woman, she does not get enough help from the police, even when she sort of turns them in and then they're like, we don't have enough evidence, and they interview them and then like let them loose again. Then she's sort of in this weird position where they might accuse her or assume that she was the one who dobbed them in or not, and then she's worried and then doesn't know what to do. But the police, and then they cover in they do cover in here several times that they'll interview someone who said that she should have been offered XYZ police services for these certain circumstances, shouldn't have been left to have to go back or potentially deal with these people coming back into her life and being scared of her, however she does. But it's an element that they choose to not really go into too deep a detail on and never pry any police or anyone about like why she was left, because it does spiral her life sort of out of control from her as the story continues. Not to spoil it, like a mental health point sort of ruins her life to a degree. So yeah, it's interesting, and it is to a degree. I know it did last summer, but in real life where people literally hit this guy. But yeah, it's sort of a sad story because it's just the guy lost his life by this two people drive home and not paying enough attention, and he was. Obviously, it's like he loses life. Then you got these two people who choose to ruin their lives a lot more than if they just called for help and admitted to, accepted. Well, he could have lived, you know what I mean? Like, because he was alive and living with that, but, choosing to deal with it. And they sort of took this cowardly way out. And the other problem is that by the end of the documentary, you sort of feel like, although these two people made such a cowardly, terrible choice that is sort of despicable, to a degree outside of that, they're not bad people if you take that out of account. Like, they're not and they do seem generally, or at least one of them, the main one, the boyfriend, seems generally remorseful to a degree, and it's too late by that point to be remorseful, which is the problem. But so it's interesting because it's sort of outside the normal Netflix murderer type stuff. So yeah, I'd recommend.
And then lastly, I watched the latest in the Untold series, now Untold UK, which is the first one is focused on Jamie Vardy. So here's a player. Interesting they're doing this Untold series. 3 Untold documentaries set in the UK, all about football, soccer. Uncoincidentally, I would think, right as the World Cup is about to happen. Probably going to be talking about these each week because all of them sound like very interesting things. But yeah, this one focuses on Jamie Vardy, who's I guess he's rise through the ranks of English football, I think, from being a person who played on like a weekend team in the 8th division of the I don't know, football championship or whatever they want to call it, and working all his way up to being in the Premier League. And not only being in the Premier League, but being part of the Leicester City team that performed one of the greatest miracles in sport of recent memory of winning the Premier League, despite being such a small, lowly club, like being one of only, I guess, one of only maybe 5 clubs that have won the Premier League in the last 20-something years. So just seeing that this character, who was a guy who, after he played his match, would go to the pub with his mates and drink himself until he had to go to work on Monday, become a guy who played for his country, represented his country in sport and that kind of stuff, and played hundreds of games in the Premier League and won trophies and golden boots and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, just an interesting look at this character. And like Jamie Vardy's still not like as they point out in the documentary, a lot of the kids who get to the Premier League and that kind of stuff are like trained in the academies. They're given media training and like prepared for like life as a professional footballer. Jamie Vardy didn't have any of that and like was not media trained and not prepared for that kind of stuff. So there are some like pretty bad scandals. Like he made what would be considered racist comments in a casino fight. They got out. The other like crazy thing is that I think after he broke the record for most games in a row with goal scoring in the most consecutive games, and right after that happened, his biological father came out, which he didn't know about. He thought his dad was always his dad, and then his biological father came to the papers and like made a big story and that kind of stuff, which is classic tabloid stuff. Yeah, it would seem so. So that covers that, his relationship with his wife, and then all that kind of stuff. So it's an interesting documentary just because it is an interesting figure, and like, I mean, the best part is like getting the kind of inside story of that final run to win the Premiership or Premier League, because that is like a historic win that there was 5,000 to 1 odds and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think is pretty good. I had a good time. I'm looking forward to discussing the other ones. So that's everything I watched history. Let's move on to a little bit of film news. This one definitely caught my eye this week. This story. Reading from Variety, a Fast and Furious TV series is officially in the works of Peacock. The announcement was made on stage by franchise star Vin Diesel at the NBC Universal Upfront presentation in New York on Monday alongside Tonight host Jimmy Fallon. For the last decade, we realized that the fans have wanted more, Diesel said. They wanted us to expand the legacy characters and their stories, and for the last decade, the desire has been for us to enter the TV space that Fallon has mastered, and I had to wait till it was right. It became right when Donna Langley started to oversee it all, because that's when I knew that the integrity of the characters, the international appeal, and what makes us feel like family will be protected in the TV space. The news that I have here today is that Peacock is launching 4 shows from the Fast and Furious universe. While Diesel said 4 shows were in the works, an individual with knowledge of the situation confirms it is in fact only 1. However, others are said to be in various stages of development at Universal TV. Plot details for the show are being kept under wraps, but Diesel promised the show would honor the legacy of the films. Dylan, what are your thoughts on Fast and Furious come to television, and I assume not in animated form?
Yeah, I don't know what it would be that is interesting. Like, what character do you take and spin off that people would care enough or would be a big enough deal? Because when they officially announce and put out, the first bit of information, if it's literally a D-list character, people are going to go, "Oh, this is like, who gives a fuck?"
Who's?
I just need someone that's at least a B tier. But I'm like, I just don't know what character. Like, I'm open to possibilities, is what I would say. I just can't picture currently who or what it would surround that would be interesting enough. Because the thing is, at the end of the day, it's Fast and Furious franchise is a huge blockbuster, a few $100 million property that's a big action franchise, and that's part. Like, obviously, yes, people like the characters and the the stories and everything. But at the end of the day, the films are big action movies, and that's part of the appeal. So yeah, I don't know how you bring all of the Fast and Furious elements to a TV series. I mean, it's possible, 100%.
Yeah,
but
I mean, it would just be more subdued, I think, which I don't think you really want for a Fast and Furious show. But no,
and I'm just like, well, fucking like,
I mean, like Twisted Metal is like vehicular warfare and that kind of stuff, and that's pretty solid on TV. But
it's like, what are you doing, Tyrese's character? Like, who gives a shit?
Maybe I think that probably makes the most sense. I think we can probably rule out Jordana Brewster's character.
Yeah,
because they're definitely not. You would hope they're not going to go down that road.
I think they're going to do Han. They're not going to do.
I mean,
Dominic.
Han would be good.
Han would be good, but I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
Full stop.
What about the rest of the cast of Tokyo Drift?
Yeah.
Return to Tokyo.
Bow Wow.
Drift again.
It would be good to have because one of the major complaints from old time fans or whatever is obviously returning to the more street racing stuff. So if the series could focus more on that angle and then sort of alleviate some of those complaints about the more recent movies and the final movies, whatever we're doing, that might be a good angle. But again, I'm like, what character are you picking for that?
Will it be not Tyrese? What's the other one? I'm thinking of
Ludacris's character.
Ludacris, yeah.
He doesn't really do the straight racing. He was always, even if you flash back to,
he didn't do it, but he like ran it.
He ran it, but I mean, even I feel like he's too old now to like. I don't think like he does look a lot younger. Too Fast, Too Furious. If you were to go back to that, and his character's not doing that now. Like you'd have to be doing a prequel thing.
Or he could just be the mentor for somebody wanting to start up underground stuff. Or what are those? The two called Colombian dudes.
Yeah, they have names. Yeah,
they've got names. They
do have names. Yeah.
Or maybe it's a series with Mr. Nobody, because that's what everybody loved.
It's what everyone wants. Yeah,
the Mr. Nobody show.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what would work. I'll wait and see for this. I refuse to get excited or.
Is Vin Diesel not doing enough work that he could lead a TV show?
He would never put himself down to lead a TV show that's below him.
You think so?
I think that's what he thinks, yes.
What if it's a John Cena show?
John Cena would happily lead a TV show, sure.
Yeah, following, or the other brother we haven't met yet. Or the prequel series about them being kids before the dad dies,
Maybe.
Young Dom. There you go, Young Dom. That's big successful, but I mean the crazy thing that it's 4 different shows in development. That's surely one of the ideas that we just said is something that they're working on. You know what I mean? Because there just aren't that many possible ideas.
I just like how he got to 4.
He said 4 on stage, and then somebody else had to come back and walk it back. Much in the way all his comments about the next Fast and Furious movie that he widely said at a press conference or whatever, but like at the Fast Fest or whatever event, and they've kind of have to walk that back as well. I think we'll see if any of these things actually pan out. Maybe these shows are set after the events of Fast Forever. Who knows?
And maybe by the time they come out, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, they'll take place in the years after. It'll follow the exact events after they drive off that waterfall.
After that waterfall, finally, that's the longest wait to see a waterfall explode in my life.
All right. I'm interested to see your reaction to this story. After bringing Michael Crichton's theme park vision to the screen, scripting Jurassic Park into 2 sequels, screenwriter David Koepp is looking to tackle another one. Deadline here is that David Koepp will revisit Westworld, 1973 film written and directed by Crichton about an adult fantasy park that allows moneyed guests with the Old West to go up against a coterie of robot wielding 6 guns. The vacation turns nightmarish when a crack-shot robot malfunctions and start drawing down on guests for real. The movie starred Yul Brynner, Richard Benjamin, and James Brolin. Crichton made the original film for MGM, but this one is for Warner Brothers, the studio that used the concept for the TV series by Lisa Joy and Jonah Nolan. Koepp is straight back to Crichton's original film for the movie. Koepp is writing the script, and a major filmmaker is circling. So what do you think of them remaking Westworld when they didn't really finish the TV show?
I'm not a fan of the because they didn't finish the TV show and we had one season left, so that's really annoying. And then B, if you go by the self-contained or even the first two seasons, but in particular the first season of like doing the Westworld story and then into the second season before they start getting future world shit and whatever else involved, it just does such a good job of their version of that story in the TV show. Like that first season and even the second season was just such good television. I don't know, and it's still so recent. Like I know it's how many years ago, but like it's still recent enough in my memory. I don't know. Like what do I couldn't get excited about this. I don't think. Not based solely off it being announced as a thing. Maybe by the time a trailer comes around, that's still a couple of years away, maybe. But depends how they go about it. Maybe then I'm open to it. But currently, no. I still want my last season of the goddamn TV show.
Yeah, the last season came out 2022, so we're only 4 years removed. So
not long. That's not a long time.
That's not that long, you know. Yeah, this just seems like a very weird thing. Like maybe David Cobb had like a cool idea for a Westworld film, and he's like, "Yeah, let's make it now that they're not doing Westworld."
And I'll say the original movie is not very good. So
no, but to do it, so it just feels too soon to be working on it. But yeah, I guess it depends on who's the director who's currently circling. Like if it's if it's like I don't know Spielberg or somebody like that, like I guess you'd have to give it a chance. But at the point now, I think people are mostly reminded how upset they are that the show didn't get a proper conclusion. So
yeah. My problem, I'd actually get more excited if it was someone weirder. My problem with Spielberg or someone doing it is just such a like sort of atypical Hollywood structure or big budget movie structure to it, which is not really. If they announce someone weirder who could do some more odd stuff like they did in the TV series or played more into the, you know, metaphorical life questioning nonsense that they played into that a bit more than just doing robot shooty bang bang stuff, that would be more interesting to me because that was a standout for the show.
Yeah, I think they're going for something a little bit more mainstream would be my assumption.
Which
it's going to be
going to excite me.
Yeah, probably not that exciting, but yeah, it's just a weird choice to pick this as the next thing you're working on. But I guess we'll wait and see how that one pans out and who puts their hand up to be directing that. So last news story that caught my attention this week. Tintin fans rejoice. Peter Jackson has confirmed that his sequel to Steven Spielberg's The Adventures of Tintin is back in active development. At Jackson's Cannes Film Festival Rendezvous, The Adventures of Tintin received the best sequel update it's gotten in years from the filmmaker himself. I've been working with Fran Walsh on another Tintin script. I was writing it in my hotel room here. It's an active, real thing. I'm getting into the Tintin world, and I'm actually loving it. Jackson also addressed why he's set to direct Tintin 2 instead of Spielberg. He explains, the deal was Steven directs one, and I direct another. Steven did his film, then 15 years later, I haven't made mine. I feel very awkward about that. Dylan, do you think this Tintin movie is actually going to happen?
Maybe, but do you remember? I swear it was a whole thing where it was supposed to be him and Gil Murray. Was Gil Murray involved in this?
I don't know. Gil Murray was the Hobbit. I'm pretty sure.
Hobbit? I don't know. All I remember is like I thought that I didn't know if it was just the two of them involved, or if there was a third person involved in this. Like we'll do 3 movies and each one will be directed by a different person or something like that. And I remember like reading an Empire article where it's like Peter Jackson, like, you know, Skype calling in to talk about it while Spielberg's filming it and stuff like that. I don't know. I just remember when they announced the movie, when that came out, 2011, something like that. Then I remember when they announced
2011.
When they did that, I remember like reading an Empire article and everything behind the scenes. And I remember being really excited about the Tintin movie and just the concept of this collaborative effort between several like high profile directors, and then it just into nothingness after that one. The first one's fine. Like I didn't think it was great, or it was fun.
It's pretty good.
I was always down for another one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm optimistic, but also it's been so many years since that came out. I'm just trying to find who actually animated it. I think it might have been Weta.
That would make sense, yeah.
Wikipedia is not like clearly saying who it is, so
Secret Animation Society.
yeah. I don't know. There's a bunch of different production companies listed, but I mean the talent involved in that original film, crazy. Spielberg directing, Spielberg, Peter Jackson, Kathleen Kennedy producing, screenplay by Stephen Moffat, Edgar Wright, and Joe Cornish. Not a bad trio of people to get involved on the script, and then obviously Jamie Bell, Andy Serkis, Daniel Craig voicing prominent characters. Nick Frost and Simon Pegg in that movie as well.
Yeah, they play
Toby Jones.
The they police
Carrie
officers
Yules.
or whatever.
Yeah, they played
two twin dudes.
Yeah,
the Battens
Thompson and Thompson.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'd be keen. I mean, it's been 15 years, so I don't think they're going to be quite look the same and that kind of stuff. It'd be interesting if it like picks up from that film or whatever. But I'll see it. I'll believe it when I see it. Is my ultimate feeling about that. But it's crazy to think that this has been on Peter Jackson's mind this whole time. Like, I got to get around to. I need to fulfill my promise to Steven Spielberg. I didn't make that Tintin movie. I got sidetracked with all these Hobbit movies.
Did you have his other story there about making more Lord of the Rings? Didn't that thing about saying the simulacrum, or however you say it, can be made into movies? Similarian can be made into movies now because of technology changes or something. I was like, oh god, we're going back to Lord. He's going back.
Possibly, or maybe he'll get other people to direct them. I mean, I think being hands off on Hunter Golem, I think, is probably a good start.
Separating from the
of like letting other people have a go and that kind of thing. So,
all
right, let's move on to giving some thumbs to trailers. Of course, you can find all the trailers we're about to talk about in the show notes below. Kicking things off, we've got Wildwood, directed by Travis Knight, starring Peyton Elizabeth Lee, Jacob Tremblay, Carey Mulligan, Richard E. Grant, Awkwafina, Amandla Steinberg, Tom Waits, Charlie Day, Blythe Danner, Arthur Knight, Maya Erskine, Jake Johnson, Tantu Cardinal, Rob Delaney, Jermaine Clement, Mark Evan Jackson, Len Carew, Olafur Dari Olafson, Angela Bassett, and Mahershala Ali. Prue McKeel and her classmate Curtis Melberg are drawn into a hidden magical forest near Portland in an attempt to save Prue's kidnapped infant brother Mac from the Crows, who are being led by a mysterious woman named Alexandra. Dylan, what do you think of this teaser trailer for the new Laika film?
Yeah, it looks fantastic. Double thumbs up. Obviously, the animation and everything like a typical social looking, exciting stuff. But it's just the mix of environments, they have these very, what do you call it, like doll-like characters they like to do, but then the environments all look very real and detailed, and like when they're walking through the forest and stuff like that stands out. And then you've got the fantastical elements of riding on a fucking griffin or whatever the hell we're doing and whatever else. It kind of looks scary a little bit too, I guess, for a family/kids animated film. It's like pushing into that, like Coraline, we're on the edge of scaring the kids territory, which is really good, and I love that. Yeah, keen.
Yeah, 2 thumbs up from me. It looks fantastic. Obviously, teaser trailers, there's not much plot, but just the vibes that they're setting up with this trailer I think is super impressive. From song choice to the little footage that we see, and like kind of setting the world up that we're going to see, even though it's not exactly clear what the story is. Just some of the tidbits, some of the stop motion animation looks really great, and just that bringing the elements together. Like anytime you got stop motion animation and you introduce water into it, I think it's crazy. So yeah, it looks really impressive. Very excited to check this one out later this year. Wildwood is coming to US cinemas 23rd of October. Currently no Australian release date. Can't imagine that will be too far away for us though. Next trailer is for 72 Hours, directed by Tim Story, starring Kevin Hart, Marcelo Hernandez, Mason Gooding, Cam Patterson, Ben Marshall, Zach Cherry, Michael Mando, Mike Epps, and Tiana Taylor. A 40-year-old man joins a bachelor party with strangers after being added to their group chat by accident. Dylan, what do you think of the latest trailer the first trailer for this latest Kevin Hart film?
I don't know. Double thumbs down. It's not for me. It's not my vibe. It's not doing anything particular for me. I found part funny at the end where his face was all fucked up from being stung by a stingray. That was good. But overall, yeah, I'm like, this isn't me. This is the typical Netflix junk afternoon movie, which isn't really my vibe.
I'll give it 1 up, 1 down. It looks like a fine film. It looks like every other Kevin Hart film that's been released in the last decades, and I don't think it's a surprise this trailer came out right as the Kevin Hart roast thing came out this week.
And then he had that TV show as well, the comedian,
the Funny AF,
recently, yeah,
the reality show, which I think I watched the trailer for that. That looks solid, but I've got no interest in checking it out. But yeah, I like the kids. Like, it's funny that three of the young guys that he's been friends with are all from Saturday Night Live at the moment. But then there's Mason Gooding from I Know Scream in there as well. The one non-comedian, I think it's amusing. And it's fun to watch Kevin Hart get roasted by those guys about what he's wearing and that kind of stuff and being old. I guess props for him for getting Tiana Taylor to play his wife. Yeah, it just seems like a very Kevin Hart film. So can't fault it too much for being what you expect it to be. 72 Hours is coming to Netflix on the 24th of July. Next trailer is for The Seasons, created by Yarlin 2, starring Jessie May Lee, Toby Stevens, Karina Lamb, Chris Pang, Selena Jade, Justin Chien, Yvonne Chapman, Koki, and Lee Jae-yun. Set against the opulence and striking contrasts of Hong Kong, The Seasons follows a privileged group of friends gathering for a summer of sun-drenched luxury as boating season begins. What starts as a glamorous escape soon spirals into a web of deception, power struggles, and life-altering consequences. Then what do you think of the trailer for The Seasons?
I'll go double thumbs up for this one. I thought it looked an intriguing, fun ride, I guess. If the sort of just, I don't know, lots of big personalities, lots of scheming, lots of stuff like that. Sort of shit I enjoy watching, I feel. So, some White Lotus type characters is what I was saying. So, I'd be keen to check it out.
Yeah, I'll give it 1 up, 1 down. I think it's definitely giving an interesting vibe, and just like obviously seeing it's very interesting to see this part of the world like on a show that's going to be on Disney Plus. I guess like it clearly I believe it's like a Hong Kong co-production with them and that kind of stuff, and obviously from producers of Crazy Rich Asians, and that's giving a lot of that vibe, maybe without the comedic elements of that film. But yeah, I think it looks really good, pretty good. Interesting to see some of the recognizing some of the actors from different projects and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the mystery at the middle of the thing is, and it is being promoted as like a Hong Kong White Lotus or that kind of stuff. So, want to keep your eye on The Seasons coming to Disney Plus on the 17th of June in the US, not confirmed for Australia. Next trailer is for How to Talk to Australians, directed by Tony Rogers, starring Rahan Ganju, Ria Patel, Robert Santiago, Vikrant Narin, Shane Jacobson, Danielle Walker, Dave Lawson, and Rick Davies. A group of students and teachers from the Delhi College of Linguistics hits the road to discover Australia and gain first-hand experience of their authentic language and culture. When their plane is diverted to the country town of Dubbo due to storms, and their tour leader is detained by customs, the hapless bunch unearth the real Australia, while never making it to Sydney, Melbourne, or even Brisbane. Dylan, what do you think of the trailer for How to Talk Australians?
I'll go 1 up, 1 down. It looks funny. Look, I wanted to. I remember when I saw this pop up the other day, I was like, oh, I'll definitely want to watch that, obviously. But there is like an element of just annoyance I always get with these types of stories and stuff, where it's like you got to stick the characters in the middle of buttfuck nowhere to do these. You know, they can't even get lost in like suburban Victoria or some shit. It's always like desert, like the very like country aspect that you've got to do with these stories. It's like you've seen so many, and it's also funny to me. It's like you don't see someone like Shane Jacobson for like fucking 15 years, and he just pops up in random stuff like this. I'm like, how does this happen? But yeah, I'm keen to watch it, but I'll go 1 up, 1 down for the trailer.
Yeah, I'll go 1 up, 1 down. I think possibly the story around this film is more interesting, of it being a viral web series that they've now brought to doing a film version of and that kind of stuff. It is definitely hitting on a lot of points that we've probably seen in these kind of films before. Like the foreigner coming to Australia and then learning all the Australian things like goon bags and how you goings and all those Australianisms. I
Not
guess
here to fuck spiders,
we're
mate.
not here to fuck spiders. I don't know that an international plane would get redirected to Dubbo. I don't think
I think that's
the
how it works
airport
either.
there would
No,
be able to.
no. But whatever.
I don't think the plane would actually be allowed to land in Dubbo.
No,
So what you going to do? That it's slight fault against the film. But yeah, I think it looks funny-ish, I guess. So, How to Talk Australians come into cinemas on the 11th of June. Last trailer for this week is Rivals of Amaziah King, directed by Andrew Patterson, starring Matthew McConaughey, Angelina Looking-Glass, Scott Shepherd, Rob Morgan, Tony Rivoli, and Kurt Russell. Kateri's life takes a tragic turn as she loses her mother and leaves foster care. Reuniting with her former parent, Amaziah, changes everything. He becomes her mentor, revealing hidden skills when a devastating situation arises. Kateri relies on her newfound strength to seek justice. Dylan, what did you think of the trailer for The Rivals of Amaziah King?
Yeah, double thumbs up. I think this looks really good. Matthew McConaughey looks to be doing his more soft, kindred spirit to the type role he can do well, plays into it. I think the relationship between him and his foster daughter looks exciting to watch that play out on screen, and looks sentimental and heartfelt and all of that. Like the way it looks, just exploring this different aspect of the beekeeping and then getting fucked over someone taking your bees or whatever we got going on there. And then, I'm keen to see Kurt Russell play a villain with a walking stick, little cane thing. It's a good time.
Yeah, I two thumbs up from me. I'm intrigued. Matthew McConaughey, yeah, like obviously, you got all these quotes talking about how good he is in this movie and that kind of stuff. So, it's being sold up a little bit. But I think it's an interesting conceit of, it seems like he's a beekeeper and someone just come and stole all his bees, and now they're going to go steal all their bees back. But it's all a criminal enterprise, So, well, they're hiding in those bees, like all that kind of stuff. And like,
what's in the honey?
What's in the honey? I don't know. Yeah, so I'm definitely intrigued to check this one out. Rivals of Amaziah King is coming to Australian cinemas on the 20th of August. All right, let's move on to this week's top 3.
Definitely in the top 3.
This week's top 3, in honor of The Mandalorian and Grogu, is top 3 movie continuations of TV shows. Movies that continue the show, or like fit in the canon of a show, not like reboots of stuff. Dylan, what's number 3?
Now, my number 3, I know you got very specific with your wording and you're trying to make these top 3s easier for me and to not fuck up.
I was just trying to make sure you understood what I was trying to go for.
Now, I think the other 2 on my list are perfectly fine, fits in for your thing. So my number 3 is The Many Saints of Newark, which is The Sopranos.
That fits, I think.
Okay, but I was just like, it's not a continuation. It is a prequel, not a continuation.
It fits in the canon, which I think is what I was more going for in hindsight.
Yeah, so this was when did this release? A couple of years ago now. But anyway, in which you get to see the origin story, I guess, of how the Tony Soprano we know to come and see in the Sopranos TV show. You get to see the family and what he was seeing around him that sort of shaped him to become the person he is. Like, the film stars Alessandro Nivola. There's the main character who's Tony's, is he uncle? I can't remember now. It's been a little bit since I watched it, but like, he's the main character, but and obviously what he sees, he goes through, and then what Michael Gandolfini, playing the son of James Gandolfini, playing the teenage Tony Soprano, sees his family go through, including Dickie. John Berthnall's character in this is, I think, his father's brother. And then you've got Corey Stoll playing Junior, who's would go on to we know is a character that continues through to Sopranos, but you get to see what a piece of shit he was still, even as a younger man. And then even like Vera Farmiga playing Tony's mother, who, when you watch the show, you know how much a character loud person she is, and seeing like earlier concepts of her and stuff. So, I mean, as a huge Sopranos fan, I know the movie got mixed reviews, but I very much enjoyed it. I think some of the complaints was it wasn't focused enough on, people wanted it to be like teenage Tony Soprano, the main focus, but I sort of enjoyed that it focused elsewhere and just got you to see the characters and the people around Tony that shaped him up until the final mark and sort of moment where I guess he's set off to become the person he becomes that we see in The Sopranos.
My number 3, I'm going to put Serenity here, which is obviously the continuum of Firefly. I think a much beloved thing for me. I think it does a great job of giving that series closure and like being a film that like has stakes and like isn't scared to like make drastic changes to characters and that kind of stuff. And you know, it's really fulfilled what fans wanted from a conclusion to Firefly. So that's my number 3. Dylan, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is El Camino, which was the Netflix Breaking Bad film that serves as both a continuation of the series and also contains a lot of flashbacks through in it, because it picks up where Aaron Paul's character, Jesse Pinkman, we last saw him at the, spoilers for Breaking Bad, but we see him escaping in Breaking Bad and taking off, and then this picks up with him sort of on the run, because obviously cops and other people would still be after him, and what he does to, or what he's trying to do to escape the life that he had with Walter White in Breaking Bad, and dealing with that, and also dealing with the psychological ramifications of having just escaped being held prisoner and trapped by people making him make drugs, a bunch of Nazi skinhead dudes, including one of those characters played by Jesse Plemons. I think it was the first thing I ever saw Jesse Plemons in was Breaking Bad, actually, and just playing what has now become a very Jesse Plemons role. So, and then the series does like a bunch of really cool flashbacks to shed light on some other stuff that we didn't see within the series, especially the stuff that was happening in the last season. You get to see some returning characters, like Jonathan Banks is in it, quite prominently playing Mike again, and some flashbacky stuff that's important. And I mean, Jesse Plemons is in it again and stuff. But yeah, as a Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul super fan, I mean, I thought the movie was really, really great, and did sort of gave people, I guess, if you were looking for a better ending for Jesse than he got in the TV show, because it was a very open-ended what happens to him after that last shot you see of him. If you wanted something a little bit more conclusive, well, here you go.
All right. My number 2 might be controversial to you. It's The Muppets, the Jason Segel film. You know, he continues on from the events of The Muppet Show. You know, that plays a key role in the plot.
I guess.
Them doing the show is what happens in the show, and then them stop doing the show is what happens in the film. And picking up so you can do the show one last time to try and keep the Muppet Studio alive. I think that fits in the continuity. I think it's a great film on its own standing. It's a great entry point, but also is a fitting continuation of the Muppet franchise. A fantastic movie that you get around to rewatching at some point because it's good. Film was number 1.
My number 1 is Veronica Mars, which was easy to lock in for me because I remember when this was being crowdfunded, it was the most exciting thing happening in the world to me at that point. Huge Veronica Mars TV show fan, and just wanted more, and then we only got the few seasons, obviously, and then when they were crowdfunding this, and it just overshot its Kickstart to funding so quickly, and then just keeping up with the updates and everything, and then getting to see Christian Bale return as Veronica years later, and then checking with a bunch of, it was just the whole thing of like, you got to see all the characters. They got everyone back for this, like everyone's like, who's she with? Is she still with Logan? What's happening there? You know, like what's up with her dad? We got Christian Ritter back. We got fucking everyone back for this thing, you know? So it's a great time. That's my number 1.
Dylan, the correct number 1 answer is South Park, bigger, longer, and uncut. The South Park guys going full hog on an animated musical. It's great. And, you know, so good that they brought back many elements in the last 12 months to reuse. And it's a fantastic movie, great songs, you know. The impetus possibly of them writing the Book of Mormon, which becomes a big Broadway hit and helps them keep the show running for several more years.
Allows them to do pretty much whatever they want.
Absolutely. Fantastic movie on its own merit as well. So, all right, Dylan, this week, what do you want to watch?
Well, I want to watch the Mandalorian and Grogu is in cinemas, obviously, this week, Thursday. And then on the TV front, what did I have? There wasn't much, and I'm probably not going to watch it, but if I'm going to pick something from TV, it was that Netflix series. I've already forgotten the name of. The Burrows. There, I'm going with that.
Okay. I mean, the obvious answer, yes, is The Mandalorian and Grogu. Streaming front, yeah, not much. Apple TV Plus has got a new show called Apple TV, sorry. It's got a new series called Maximum Pleasure Guaranteed, starring Tatiana Maslany, which looks interesting. They've only really put teaser trailers out, which is annoying. So I'll go with that. Also, I watched there's a Kylie documentary coming out this week, which looks intriguing as well. So this is because she's been one of those figures that has been around for ages, and yet I don't know a lot. And it'll be interesting because I think it's done by USA Crew. So how are they going to take a lot of the weird neighbors and all that kind of stuff elements? Are they going to cover her appearing in Street Fighter? That's what I want to know. Let us know what you want to watch this week by going to explosionhour.com/follow and let us know on social media. Heather, if you want to help us out here at What Do You Want to Watch, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Podchaser. Leave us 5 stars. You can leave 5 stars or just tell people about the show. And if you want to help us out at Explosion Network with all our other podcasts and other written content, head over to explosionhour.com/support. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, keep watching stuff, I guess.